This is all about earnest money and creating favorable buyer contracts. All about earnest money and creating favorable buyer contracts. So what you're going to learn today is overview of earnest money and the part it plays in your deals. What earnest money is, what it's all about, how you should be using it, how to decide how much earnest money to actually put down, and what I typically do on my deals, how to practically guarantee you won't lose money or lose your earnest money, how to write a purchase contract with favoring the buyer, and get a copy of that. So overview, what is earnest money? Earnest money is the good faith in a transaction. The good faith is the idea is you're putting something up that you could lose. So that's making good faith. And the idea is the buyer is putting something up for good faith out of their own pocket. So monetary does not have to be used, but that's most common, and that's typically what is used. And these funds can be the seller's if the buyer does not perform per the terms of the contract. So you've got to perform per the terms of the contract, or you've got to get out of the contract so you don't lose your earnest money. We're going to talk all about that. So although no law requires earnest money, sellers typically do require it. They'll say, well, I won't go under contract if you don't put up some earnest money. So that's what's really important. So you'll probably be considered in breach of contract. If your earnest money bounces or check bounces, you'd be in breach of contract. Okay, how much earnest money? The amount is negotiated between you and the seller. It varies upon local market conditions. So it doesn't matter what your agent thinks. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. It just matters what you and the seller agree to. So it could be anything. It could be $1. It could be a horse. It could be whatever. But money is typically the one that's used, and it varies based upon market conditions. And this depends on how you're purchasing your property, right? So it's an off-market property. If it's not on the MLS, multiple listing services listed with an agent, you can typically do $50 or $100 of earnest money. If the property is listed on the MLS, you're going to see somewhere between $500 and $1,000, or even 1% to 3% for higher-end properties is what most sellers are going to want for earnest money. And this really depends. How much do you have to pay? When do you have to pay this money? When do you have to pay this money? It really depends on your contract. I like to write my contract so it says that my deposit will be 3 days after acceptance. It used to be in the olden days, my contract said I'll deposit the earnest money right now before you even accept the contract. And that became a problem because then I had to put $500 or $1,000 every single time I made an offer, and it limited my ability to make offers. And so I changed my contract. I said, I'll do it 3 days after you accept my agreement, and then I can make tons of offers with the same $500 of earnest money or $50 of earnest money. And then when you actually accept it a few days later, I'll cut a check and put that in, and I'll show you where you're going to put it and how this all works. This is very important because I can write many offers like I talked about. And when I first started investing, I didn't know any better. That's exactly what we were just talking about. And I didn't have a ton of money, so I was really limited. And this is not the case if you do your contract correctly. And even if you use MLS Sniper with on-market properties, you can still make lots of offers and not have to make the deposit of earnest money until after it's accepted. And if your agent wants you to put different earnest money each time, or if the contract for the state, just do an addendum that says earnest money will be deposited 3 days after the seller accepts the contract. You can just alter that with a quick addendum and put that in there. So that's the way that I like to do it. Okay, terms of a good contract. Your earnest money will be deposited after the acceptance. That's a big thing. You have an inspections period. The inspection period is the opportunity for you to inspect the property. Loan denial period gives you, sometimes combined with the inspections, called due diligence. That'll give you the time for you to look over the property, make sure you can get your funding. The other thing is appraisal or evaluation period. It gives you the opportunity to have an appraisal or evaluation. So if you're setting these things up right, basically, as long as you remove yourself from the contract before any of these dates happen, you get your earnest money back. And if you're getting close, you want to do an extension of that. We need to extend our earnest money, or we need to extend our loan denial deadline. So those are the types of things you want to do just to make those extensions so you don't find yourself in a problem situation. So keep in mind, as a buyer, you've spent like 20 minutes in the home, maybe even less than that, and you're going to go buy it for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you give an offer, but you say you want to check some things out. out, right? Maybe you want to spend some time or money on inspections, but you don't really want to spend any time or money on inspections until you know the seller is going to sell it for the price that you're asking for. If they do, that's when you go under contract. And I don't want to do that unless they agree to sell the house to me, and then I'll start spending my time and my money. And if I have a problem at that point, then I will lose the money I've spent in an inspection, but I'll save myself from buying the property, and I will get my earnest money back if I do it within the period of time before my earnest money becomes non-refundable. So the seller cannot get out of contracts unless the buyer defaults. The seller has to sell. That's really important as a buyer. You're locking up the seller for a period of time so you can do your inspections and your due diligence, and the seller's required to sell, but the buyer's not required to buy unless you pass those due diligence deadlines or inspections deadlines, and that's when your earnest money could become non-refundable. So you don't want to pass those unless you're certain that you're going to be moving forward with the transaction. So the buyer does not have to buy. As long as they give their notice per the terms of the contract, they do their inspections, their due diligence, that's how you're going to remove yourself. And one thing to keep in mind here is just realize that due diligence, you don't have to give them a reason why you're pulling out of the contract. Your due diligence could be financially analyzing it. Due diligence could be talking with your partner, your wife, your spouse, your lender, whatever the case is. It's like, hey, we did our due diligence and we don't feel like we're going to move forward on this. Sorry, we did that prior to our due diligence time. Give us back our earnest money. We're going to move on and find another property. Those are things that you can do, or you can even renegotiate with the seller at that point in time. So what does inspections and due diligence? Again, any reason. We talked about this. You don't have to give a reason. You don't have to tell them what there are. This can be because you ran the numbers and it's just simply not profitable. It can be because you decided against buying. It can be anything as long as it's before the due diligence deadline, as we talked about. And the loan denial is different. The loan denial deadline is you have to have, this is where you would have to get it prior. You'd have to get a loan denial prior to this loan denial deadline in order to remove yourself from the contract and get the earnest money back. Now, an appraisal is different. You typically have to show the home was not valued for what you plan to purchase it for and able to get out for that appraisal deadline. And I recommend that you put those in as well. So a purchase contract is really written to favor the buyer. It really is. It's designed that way, is to favor the buyer. And where does your earnest money go? If the property's on the MLS, the money would go towards a real estate broker in their escrow account. So if a special escrow account's not supposed to be commingled with anything else, and that's where earnest money is sitting and it's waiting there. So you can also give it to the seller, although I do not recommend that you give it to the seller. I like to give my money to my title company and they put it in their escrow account because I know if there's a problem or if I have to get it back, they're going to be a lot more friendly. You can also use your closing attorney if you're in an attorney state rather than a title state to give them your earnest money and use your escrow officer or your title or your attorney. How do you get your earnest money back? Well, if your contract was written correctly, you don't need the seller's approval. You automatically can get it. You just have to give notice that you're going to withdraw. Make sure that's within the time frame that you have, and then you can get your earnest money back as long as you've set your contract up properly, and the seller doesn't have to approve the release of it. So how to practically guarantee you won't lose your earnest money? You should never lose your earnest money. Do not pass a due diligence deadline until you know you're going to be able to close. If you don't know or it's questionable, get an extension. We're going to extend the due diligence period from this date to this date to give yourself some more time. If the seller's unwilling to, we're going to remove ourselves from the contract and earnest money will be returned to the buyer. Those types of things you can be asking for. This includes loan and inspections. You want to make sure that you're not moving forward on that until you know you're going to close. Honestly, I like to close before my due diligence deadline is even over. So I write long due diligence deadlines. I want to get as much time for due diligence as I possibly can. Typically write a 30-day due diligence. Okay, when in doubt, you can extend. In the addendum, buyer and seller agree to extend. We talked about that in the closing date. If the seller doesn't agree to the contract, you remove yourself. Don't lose your earnest money. For many non-MLS properties, the due diligence is the day of closing. That's how I like to write my contracts as well. So next, I want to talk for a few minutes, like what can earnest money, where can it come from? It can be your own money. It can be off a credit card finance, 0% if you do it right. Credit cards, as long as you know how to convert them into to cash, you can use those. You can't just do a credit card directly. Most sellers aren't going to be able to accept that, so you have to turn it in somehow to cash. If you're for the members, you can use a service that we provide. Business partners, you can come from them. But one of the things I think is really important with this is it can't come from the lender. It could come from a business partner or some of these other methods, but it can't come from the lender. So recap on some things that we've talked about today. Overview of earnest money and the part it plays with the deals. How to decide how much to put down and what I typically do on my deals. I talked about that. How to practically guarantee you won't lose any earnest money. How to write a purchase contract favoring the buyer and your money, and how to get a copy of that as well. Okay, let me just jump back here. We've got some comments I wanted to talk about. Okay, good information, interesting. Okay, where do we live? The wealth check, great, very interesting. Thank you, appreciate it. Mark Hansen, good information about the nationwide market. Good, I'm glad it was helpful. I hope it helps you make some decision. Daryl, going all in. I like it, Daryl. I think so. I think there's good opportunity. I think you got to be cautious, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Javier, great review. Thank you. The wealth check, I think the market is promising, especially in my area. The constant migration has us bursting at the seams. Remember, wealth check, are you in Texas? Remind me where you're at, wealth check. So I'd like to know. Dana is live. Appreciate you being with us, Dana. Okay, so if you missed last week, how many offers do you really need to make to find a deal? You want to go back and watch the replay. It's really worth your time. Go to YouTube, go to Do Hard Money. And while you're there, remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel and please leave a comment. Let's see here. What you missed last week. How many offers I need to make to get one property. That's what we missed last week. The factors that make a big difference. Are off-market or on-market deals easier to get under contract? How big a factor does experience really play? Should your marketing cast a wide net or a sniper approach? And how many offers you should place at one time? If you want to know those things, go back and check out our YouTube channel and take a look at that. So yeah, okay, I see what's going on. Dana, you were just surprised that we were live. Yes, hello, welcome. If you come, make some notes, put some comments. I'm happy to get them answered. I'm excited to be with you live. So yeah, we're live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So join us. Let's see. Ron in Louisiana. Thanks for being with us, Ron. Appreciate it. And Wealth Check Dallas. Yeah, I think so. Bursting at the seams in Dallas. I think that's going to continue. I don't see any end in sight with that. But I think one thing to keep in mind, though, the Wealth Check is the suburban areas outside of Dallas are some things I'd be looking at. I can't remember the name of some cities. We've done a bunch of deals there. Okay, future live casts. One of the questions I've got is, what do you want to hear? What is helpful for you? What I'd like you to do is please type, when you hear something that you'd like to see covered in one of these live casts, please type it in your comment section so that we can take a tally and see which one wins. So wholetailing, if you want to hear about wholetailing, type in wholetailing into the comments. Reverse wholesaling, if you want to learn more about that, type it in the comments. Determining repair costs. Coronavirus investing, type it in the comments. How to analyze rental properties, wholesaling remotely, choosing good contractors, seller financing, contractor bids, determining rental prices, business partner deep dives, preparing yourself to buy cash flow properties, how to make offers without seeing properties, action properties, that probably should say auction properties, closing a deal, all the players, sales skills, negotiating at the kitchen table, subject to deals, or something else. So if you've seen something here that you would like to see a training on, please type it in the comments. We'll tally those up. So give you some time to do that. Anything you see here you want to see on one of these live sessions, type it in the comments. Also, while you're doing that and putting some things in the comments here, if you're interested in getting a copy of my purchase contract that favors buyers, you can get a free copy of that. Let me just put it in the chat here so everybody can get it really easy. I just made a mistake. So everybody can get it really easily. Just go ahead. I'm going to type it in here so you can get a copy of that. So if you want to get a copy of the purchase contract I like to use, again, I'm not an attorney. Check it all out, all that type of stuff. But if you want to get the copy that I use, just go ahead and go over to dohardmoney.com/purchase-contract. Again, http dohardmoney.com/purchase-contract, and you can get a copy of the contract I like to use. With that, sorry, they came off the screen. Any of these things, it looks like a couple of people, seller financing, great, Paul, appreciate it. We'll put that on the list. The Wealth Chick, I'm a newbie, so I'm staying open to urban areas and suburban areas. Got it. Yeah. Negotiating in BRRRR deals. Yep, Mark, I gotcha. Super informative as always. Oh, thanks, Jackie. I really appreciate it. Let's see here. Reverse wholesaling. Gotcha on here. We've got it down. Fantastic. Put that on here. Let's see. Leslie, buying without seeing properties or buying during COVID. Okay, great. The COVID investing. Got you down for that. Please keep a comment. Throw them on here. Let us know what else you'd like to see. Please download a copy of the purchase contract that is favoring buyers that you're going to want to be using as you're looking for properties that are out there. Okay, if you've enjoyed what you've learned today, please share the live cast link on YouTube with friends or several friends. We appreciate that. Also, check out my podcast. If you haven't heard of Income Hacker, wherever you listen to podcasts, on Apple, on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Spotify, whatever the case is, go check out Income Hacker. You can get lots more information. If you are an Income Hacker subscriber or listen to Income Hacker, please type it in the comments here. I'd love to know if you're an Income Hacker as well. So, Waju, I don't know how to say your name. Reverse wholesaling. Okay, very good. Leslie, buying without seeing properties and buying during COVID. Okay, very good. How to analyze rental properties. I will add that to the list as well. Please keep them coming. Any of those that you want to see. Okay, guys, next Tuesday, same time, same place, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Type in what you would like to hear for next Tuesday. If any of those things or anything else that you might be interested in, make sure you type it in the comments and we'll look at that and we'll analyze it and bring it into one of these next live casts. Okay, purchase contract. If you want to get this purchase contract that favors buyers, which is what you're going to want when you're making these offers, go to dohardmoney.com/purchase-contract. I'll jump over for a few comments as well. I'd like to hear more about wraparound mortgages and buying with no money. Okay, the Wealth Chick. Subject to financing is also wraparound mortgage. It's called subject to financing, where you're actually buying it subject to the existing loan that's on the property. So that's a fantastic one and great one to use during this time as well. Any other comments, please keep typing them in. And even after, if you're watching this recorded and not the live version, please join us next week at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you are joining us with the recorded version, please type the comments in there. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. And as we said, we're 90 away from getting to 90. We're actually 87 away now because we had a couple of subscribers while we were on the call. I think Mark was a subscriber. Somebody else subscribed while we're on the live cast. Please subscribe to Do Hard Money on YouTube, and so we can hit our goal of hitting 4,000 subscribers by the end of this month is our goal. Thank you so much for being with me. Please, you're welcome to type in more comments. We'll be taking a look at those and bringing in what you guys want to see. Thanks so much.